So one of the things that I've been blessed with is the ability to turn good ideas into lucrative ideas. And to that end, I had been living in Cape Town for a short period of time, and I used that brocha that Hashem has given me for bad things. I had, amongst other things, debt collecting companies, telephone sex chat lines, protection for the ladies who worked on the streets, ran the drugs in and out of clubs, and ensured that I was making money, albeit in a very non-kosher way. The first time I had an attack of conscience, I had been given the task to collect a debt of about 2 million rand. How I went about doing this, I sent one of my collectors, a guy by the name of Dani, stood 7 foot tall, weighed 185 kilos, sent him to the debtor's office with the instruction to just sit there without saying a word, just make everyone around him uncomfortable. If the police were called, he was to comply and leave with the police. He was to cause no trouble. You can imagine walking into your own office, into your own workspace, and seeing this behemoth of a man sitting there, saying nothing, responding to no one, just acting malevolent and frightening. In the interim, I went to his children's school. I picked up his 7-year-old son, his 9-year-old daughter, under the pretense of being a policeman and needing them to come with me. And I took them back to their father's office. I walk into the father's office with a child in each hand, and I let the father know very subtly, but very clearly, that this would be the last time he ever saw his children if we didn't receive the full 2 million rand by midnight the following night. Needless to say, any of you that are parents will know that that's not the kind of threat you take lightly, and of course he paid us. However, I went home after having received the money and had my first attack of conscience, the first time that my Yetzer Hara wavered and my Yetzer Tov came back to me a little bit. I was physically sick by what I had done. My story continues. For a while along that path, my turning point came when my son was born to me at the age of 23. I had a 3-day-old baby boy lying in hospital, and I was at a party where there were other gangs and gang leaders present. One of the other gang leaders came running up to me, smashed me in the nose with his head, broke my nose, and was ready to fight me for the very lucrative territory that I ran. And I was going for my gun to shoot him. And at that moment, I remember that moment as crystal clear today as it happened 23 years ago. At that very, very moment, time stopped. And in my mind's eye, I saw my life at a crossroads, at a fork in the road. And I could have chosen the left-hand fork and pulled out my gun and shot and killed this guy, or been shot and killed myself. And there would have been no one to look after my baby boy. I would have either been in jail or would have been dead myself. Whereas the right-hand fork led me to a life of normality, a life where I wouldn't wake up in a cold sweat every night, a life that I knew was better than the life I was leading. Now, you've got to understand, this happened in the blink of an eye, but it changed my life forever. I pushed the guy back, didn't unholster my weapon, turned around to him and said, "You can have everything that I have. I'm walking away from this lifestyle." Now, to extricate yourself from a life like that is not so simple. It took some time, but ultimately I got out of it, and I got out of it completely. In the interim, I met the next biggest bracha that Hashem had sent me, which was my wife-to-be, Shireen. And when we met, I'd stopped making that kind of money. I'd burnt through everything. I was incredibly broke. I was so broke, couldn't even pay attention. And Shireen stuck with me. She stuck with me through my extricating myself out of this terrible lifestyle. She stuck with me when I didn't have 2 cents to rub together. And she helped me to come back to Judaism, albeit very subtly, with a lot of love and a lot of tenderness and a lot of care. Another turning point for me was after Shireen, Daniel, and I moved from Cape Town to Johannesburg. One Shabbos morning, Daniel asks me, would I please take him to shul? And of course, I said I would. I took him to shul, but me, being the schmuck that I was, I didn't stay with him. I dropped him off. My mother, his nonna, was there at shul, and he spent the morning with his nonna. Eventually, after a few weeks of doing this, I decided I was a real idiot, not to spend some quality time with my son, who was 4 years old at the time, even though it was at a shul where I wasn't so comfortable. I started attending the shul initially to be with my son, and before I knew it, I started to get into the Shabbos morning services. Every Shabbos, Rabbi Kozilski, who's a Chabad rabbi at the Sephardi shul, would have a shiur after the davening. And I would sit and listen to most of these shiurim. And one day, I was frustrated by what he was telling us, and I blurted out to him. I said, Rabbi, that makes no sense. And the rabbi turned around to me and he said, do you believe in Hashem? And I said, of course I do. And he stopped and he looked at me and he gave a little smile and he said, no, think about it. Do you really believe in Hashem? And I did. I stopped and I thought about it. And I realized that I did actually believe in Hashem. I'd grown up with the knowledge of Hashem, and the lifestyle I had led and survived proved that there was a God in this world. There was no way for me to live the life I had lived and survive that life without Hashem looking over me. So more cautiously this time I said, yes, I do believe in Hashem. Rabbi Kozilski, satisfied with that answer, asked me, do you believe that Hashem wrote the Sefer Torah? So again, I was about to blurt out, and then I thought, hold on, let's just think about this. And I said, yes, I do. If it hadn't been written by Hashem, if it had been written by man, we would have had to keep updating it. Since it's never been updated in 3,000 plus years, it has to have been written by Hashem. Rabbi Kozilski made an unbelievable point to me that day. He said to me, if you believe in Hashem, and you believe in the Torah, you believe Hashem wrote the Torah, then any problem you have is your own problem. It's your shortcoming. It's your inability to understand it. It's not a problem with the Torah. And that one comment, that one statement, changed my outlook and changed the way I view Yiddishkeit from that moment onwards. I've been so blessed in my life. I've experienced miracle after miracle after miracle. I'd like to share one with you. 15 odd years ago, I bought a piece of technology which was going to revolutionize my business. I bought it with money that we didn't really have. At the same time, I brought my wife's parents here from Cape Town to Johannesburg to help me run the business. I rented a premises. I hired some staff. I incurred a number of expenses to go along with this machine. And from the day the machine arrived at my premises, it did not work. For 6 months, I had technicians and engineers and service support people come and work on this machine day in and day out. I would push them to work 20-hour days sometimes. I had to get this machine working. I was spending money hand over fist, and I had no revenue, zero revenue coming in. One morning, I turned around to my wife before going back to the office. I said to her, sweetheart, I think I'm going to go and put some tefillin on. something I had not done since I'd finished matric. And Shireen laughed at me and said, what are you going to do that for? My answer was that I actually didn't know, but I was so desperate to get this machine working, I needed some help. I went to shul. I had help putting on the tefillin because embarrassingly, after so many years of not putting on, I had forgotten how. And while everyone else was davening Shachris, I was begging Hashem to help me. My relationship with Hashem at that time was very superficial. My family and I went to shul Friday nights. We went to shul Shabbos mornings. We had a kosher home. We kept Shabbos. But that was it. We didn't do much. We were very, very on the cusp of Yiddishkeit. And I begged Hashem that entire Shachris, help me, please help me, please help me. I need your help, I need your help. I didn't know how to pray. I went straight from shul to the office. The engineer arrived 15 minutes after I did. He turned the machine on to run its normal diagnostics. And within a minute or two of having turned the machine on, that machine started to work. And the technician was blown away. He had no idea what it was. He says, I've done nothing since last night. It wasn't working when I switched off at 3, 4 o'clock this morning. How can it be working now? And in my heart and in my head, I knew that the Eibishter had answered my prayers. Ever since then, I've been too scared not to put the tefillin on ever since. So I put on every day. My machine keeps on running, thank God. So, over time, I've moved closer to Yiddishkeit with my family. We have learned as a family. I learned on my own with a number of great rabbis. I've learned Tanya, I learned Chassidus, I learned Torah. And all these things, all these beautiful things have taught me one thing, that Yiddishkeit will allow any Jew and every Jew, even one who was as spiritually broken as I was, to come back and be loved and be embraced. And the Eibishter will love you. That is my story.